Listen to Downtown Hot Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
You're now tuned into the Real Rap Radio Show. I'm your host, Walil Archer, on Downtown Hot Radio. I have a special guest. I have Martin Terrell. How are you today?
I'm fine, and I've been looking forward to this. Many of the people that I know, Samantha, and the people that I've worked with in producing my book, told me about you. So I'm looking forward to this.
That's awesome. I'd like to thank you for doing the interview today.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
All right, so we're going to talk about three of your books today.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with your most recent book. Can you let the listeners know the title of your third book?
Yes, my most recent is Unseen Scars. It's a poetry book. Well, it's not regular poetry. Some call it political poetry. It's based upon growing up in the ghetto. It's based upon also experiences I've had in prison. It's based upon experiences I've seen, just everyday experiences encountering situations out in the world. And many other people encounter the same experiences, but I think we interpret them differently. That's what's made this book such a, I don't know, I get calls about it frequently, and a lot of people are talking about it. And I'm sometimes just surprised by it, the reception it's gotten.
That's amazing. So you was able to take your life and recapture it in a poetry book.
Yes, yes.
That is amazing. How did you come up with that concept?
Well, it came about from some of the other things that I'd written that I couldn't include in prose because it was so short and sharp. And I had to leave it out. And then sometimes, you know how you see something and it hits you, but you don't have anywhere to put it. Or there's something in the news that strikes you, and like, or something happens to you. I remember once I was on my way to work, my wife and I was driving a Jaguar car, not a new one, but a nice one. And I was a vice president at a university on Long Island. I'm going to work, and I'm on Long Island, and a guy stops me. We're a mixed couple, and he stops me, and I'm a senior guy. He says, "Are there any warrants out on your arrest? I mean, are there any warrants out for your arrest?" I'm a senior citizen. I'm going to work. I'm a vice president at a university. I look like a vice president. Just a settled guy. And this young white guy asked me, "Are there any warrants out for me?" You know, in situations like that. In another situation, I can recall going from Cincinnati, Ohio, to Alabama, and as soon as we crossed the river into Kentucky, I get out to go to the bathroom, and the guy runs out of the filling station and say, "Oh no, not in my bathroom, you're not." And in situations like that, I recall them and they come out into a poem. So I capture incidents that you don't put into prose into a book, but that incident becomes a poem. And those are the kinds of things that go into my book called Unseen Scars. These are the scars that I got growing up and even as an adult that the the society and the people that put those scars on me and other poor blacks and whites, it's not just blacks, they don't see, but they're there. And we have to learn to live with those scars and find a way to exist in the general society without harming ourselves and others,
So
but to
true.
exist with those unseen scars. So that's what's in this book, this unseen scar.
How long did it take you to write the book?
Not too long, about a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half.
Of course, many of them were there. They were there. I just had to. Once I started, they just flowed out. I just had to arrange them and get them there, and they came from some of my other books. I just had to put them together. So it didn't take long.
Okay.
Didn't take long.
Okay, great. And let's talk about your second book.
You're only innocent once, and once is not enough. Was more political. It's very personal. I used to be a drug user. I grew up in Cincinnati in the West End. I knew pimps, drug users, prostitutes. That's what I grew up with. And the people that I knew, the guys that I knew who were older than me, they were either going to prison or coming from prison. And I was very comfortable in that environment. So I grew up using drugs, was locked up a couple of times for using drugs. So I stopped. And I became a drug counselor, a head drug counselor at a drug counseling center. And I enjoyed that work. And to really help make it worthwhile, I went to college at Ohio State University. I was going there part-time. And I had centered myself. I was okay. I was married, had a young daughter. I thought I was being like regular people. But then one evening I come home, going into the apartment, and it was like, bam, lights, sirens went on, and stop, and I knew as a black man that my best thing to do was to surrender, and that's what I did. And they took me to jail and said that I committed a burglary, which I had not. So since this was the one time that I was innocent, I said, okay. They said, we want you to make a plea to a lesser crime. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to go to trial, which was a mistake. I went to trial. They gave me a court-appointed attorney, and they gave me the max for a burglary sentence, 6 to 25. I went to prison, Chillicothe Correctional Institute in Ohio. But I was determined, since that had been done to me and there was nothing I could do about that, I was going to do something to myself that could make me work for me. And so I was able to do that. At Chillicothe, they had a college program for the prisoners. And since I had been in college at Ohio State, they had a college program from Ohio University. And I enrolled in that. And since I was going to be there for 6 years, I graduated summa cum laude and received a full scholarship to the Scripps School of Journalism when I was released. And in the meanwhile, while I was in there, I became the president of Black Culture and History Group. And we maintained a code of ethics that allowed us to make the prison work for us. And we did little things like we brought in cards, Black Christmas cards that had Black images for Black men. And I was able to write a proposal to the director of prisons that allowed us to go out once a month to speak to the kids in college and when we studied Black history, but to say, look, we're prisoners. And we're prisoners because we were Black men. Some of us didn't do anything. Some of us did. But you're in college and you're getting an education, and that's your key to freedom. Get that education. Because there aren't men who have college degrees. That's the key to stay out of prison. And we would go to Central State University, Ohio University, Ohio State. And that's how we did our time. And that's why you're only innocent once. If you're Black, you're only innocent one time. But once is not enough. And that's what this book is about. And after I was out, 6 years, I had other jobs at Ohio University, Florida State. After 6 years, I became a vice president at Stony Brook University in New York for
Nice.
fundraising.
Now, how long did it take you to write your second book?
Took about 3 years.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
And then let's talk about your first book. What was the title of your first book?
Without a Compass. That was the hardest book to write. Because like I said, I grew up in the ghetto in Cincinnati, Ohio. My mother married my stepfather when I was 2 years old. And after that, she had my 4 sisters and my brother. And then she died when I was 12. She was my compass. That's why the book is Without a Compass. That's why after she died, there are things that I did living on the street to get away from my stepfather, to establish a compass. And that's what my first book is about. He and I never really got along. He was from Alabama. He was a good man, but his perception and my perception didn't link. And I was very unfair to him. As I see now later in life, I was very unfair to him because I did not give him the benefit of the doubt. And I left home 2 or 3 times trying to establish myself as a kid, as trying to be a man as a kid and not live under his roof. And that got me in a lot of trouble as a young man. And those things, the first incident of me getting in trouble with the police was taking window weights out of condemned buildings. And I don't think they use window weights anymore. And
So.
you know what window weights are?
Mm-mm.
Window weights are weights about 7 pounds that will go in the sides of each window. So if you raise the window up, the weight will come down to raise it up. They don't use them anymore. They don't need to. But when the building was condemned, we would get the weights and take them down the end of the street and sell them for iron, for the waste. It's junk. It's junk. You can sell it at the junkyard. And me and my partner Jim, we were getting the window weights, taking them down there, and the police saw us putting the window weights in our wagon. They arrested us and put us in the juvenile center. Well, in our neighborhood, there were 3 ways you developed as an individual. It was the juvenile center. Then there was a center after that, Mansfield, where you went until you were 21. And then there was the Ohio Penitentiary. That was the way the guys in our neighborhood developed. That was like our school. That's how you develop. And so that was my first ride into that road. So I went to the juvenile center. And in the juvenile center, you learn how to live as a juvenile. And you either beat somebody up, get beaten up, rape, or get raped. That's where all that starts. And then the next level is Mansfield. I went there and I went to Mansfield, both of those places. And in Mansfield, a guy said something about my mother, and I tried to kill him. Well, that's because of my neighborhood. And he said I tried to rape him, which put me in with the wolves. And so that gave me an opportunity to be at a level that when I did go to prison, I was on a plane when nobody bothered me and everybody put me in a certain class. So when I was able to organize people, even though I wasn't a bully or anything, I had a certain station. So coming from the ghetto, it's like going through a school. And that's what Without a Compass was. It showed the steps of being in the ghetto and how you are put on a sort of step that if you're in the ghetto, that's what happens to you. And you have to find a way to get off that. You have to find a way to get off. And I found a way when I was here. When I went to prison and I was able to, when I went to prison and I was innocent, that's how I found a way to get off. When you go in though, from the ghetto, you know everybody that's there, because when you grow up in the ghetto, you're growing up in a prison. You're growing up in prison already. So that's the thing. So it just reinforces who you are and the kind of environment that you have to break away from. And since I've been out, I guess I've become a preacher for education, because education is, I have a master's of science in journalism, and that is the thing that has saved me, my education, despite my ghetto upbringing, education. And when I go talk to guys who are from the kind of upbringing that I came from, that's what I have to share.
And let me ask you this. What year did you finish your first book?
I think it was 10 years ago.
Okay. And how about your second book?
Fairly recent. 2021.
2021. Okay. And then you just kind of finished your third book?
Yeah.
Okay.
24.
Yep. And
Did
did you face any challenges writing those 3 different books?
The challenges was trying to share what I experienced and share it in its rawness as it was, to not sugarcoat it, to share it as it is. And I feel I've been able to do that.
Okay. All right. And where can people purchase your books at?
Well, right now, you can do Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
Okay.
And then small bookstores, like where I live here in North Carolina, it's in small bookstores. Yeah.
Any plans for a 4th book?
I don't know. I'd like to, but I haven't made any plans, no.
Okay. And as we close out, any final thoughts or closing remarks?
Well, since the new political climate, I think that it's even more important for people who are minorities and people who are poor to make sure they arm themselves with something to keep themselves able to make a way out of no way.
Understood.
And education to me is that key.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for doing the interview today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So that's my time today on the Real Rap Radio Show. And I'll see you guys next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with Walil Archer on Downtown Hott Radio.
Listen to Downtown Hott Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Tune in by downloading the Downtown Hott Radio's mobile app. Listen on our website, www.downtownhottradio.com.